Preparing today for a secure tomorrow, using stock, bonds, real estate, and other investment instruments. Financial preparedness, very important. It is crucial because life is unpredictable. It can be job losses, medical emergencies, or economic downturns that can strike at any time. To weather such storms, we need a well-diversified financial strategy. Let us explore how stock, bonds, and real estate can help us to build financial security. Much of what I'm going to say to you today is what I've learned from a life experience, because I guess most of you grew up poor like me. So we never know anything about stock and bonds and anything like that. We're told that you go to school, you work hard, pass your exam, and you get a job, and you work that job. You find that working that job is usually from hand to mouth. Not much you can do working that job. And say the way how money was earned or accumulated was not taught to us. And unfortunately, one of the reasons why so many of us get into senior years, and sometimes you can't even buy your medication. So I want to share with you some of the things that we can do. Well, some of you are more senior, and so you're risk averse, wouldn't be encouraged to enter into risk or so. But just to share, the stock market is one of the places where we can accumulate wealth over time. And there's no mystery to the stock market. The stock market comes about because investors very often want to start a business or to expand a business but don't want to go to the bank to borrow the money. Because usually the interest rate at the bank, the minute you borrow from them, you start working for them. And I can tell you that from personal experience. I borrowed 100,000 in about 89, 90 thereabouts, and I paid back over $2 million interest. They lose the house, lose 4 vehicles I had. Because the bank interest rate will never ever keep up with the interest rate. So those persons who know how to manage money better than us, what they do is that they form a business, a company, and they sell shares. So let's say, for example, I want to form a company to sell fruits, just for argument's sake, and I need 200,000 to start the company. I have a number of options. I can go to the bank, and if I have the security, and they're willing, they'll take the land, because they'll go while they take the land from me. Because try as we may, never keep up with it. So I have that option. Or I also have an option where I can share with brothers, sisters, cousins, uncles, nieces, or I can go public. And so many of the great companies that we hear of today, and I can think of Avon, Colgate, Palmolive, and so, were started by somebody who had an idea and decided now to share the idea with the family, friends, and neighbors. So that 200,000 would divide the people who are here, and it's alright, it will cost so much per share. And those persons invest. The good thing about investing like that, you don't have a bank where every 3 to 4 weeks they're waiting now to collect payment. Because we're part of a company and we allow the company to stay and to take time to grow. And as the company grows, it grows to the stage now where it is able to pay your dividend. And so that is how, just a basic way of how money can be made. There was a video going around about a young man in prison. He's a multi-millionaire today. He and his family, they were living in the Bronx and they grew up on crime. It's from his grandparents all the way up. That family was a family of crime. And so one night he and his cousins went to rob a liquor store, and the man put up some resistance and he shot the man, and the man died and he was arrested. He couldn't read, none of them could read. When he went to prison, he learned to read. And one of the things that interested him when he learned to read was the sports page. And so every time the newspaper come to the prison, they would give him the sports page. On an occasion, somebody mistakenly gave him the stock page. And an old man in prison who was doing life sentence said to himself, "Oh, you're going to do what white people and rich people do to make money?" And he said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "Well, they invest in stocks, and that's how they make money." And he said, "Tell me more about it." And the old man told him what he knew. And he started reading up, and he started trading. He's a multi-millionaire today. Just by trading in stocks. Because how stock works, you buy share, and over time, those share value appreciate. Like there's one that was just, I think it closed a couple of days ago, Enrock. The advertisement on the television said, invited to go on the road. You know, the new highway that they build, and they charge toll on the highway. There are thousands of us who invest in it. I bought 20,000 shares. It was actually $3 something. It's oversubscribed, so I didn't buy it. And then you bought some of the Enrock shares? No. You did? Oh. And before that, there was Wigton. So, Enrock is the road. And presently it is valued at $3.60, I think. Well, since it was sold, yesterday's report said that it went to $4 up. So it is expected now that over time, the value of that stock will go up. I'll give you an example. A few days ago I sold, because I'm a trader, I sold some cement company stock. And initially when I bought those stocks some years ago when they came out, they were $50 per share. Well, I've traded that on and off, and on one occasion bought it back for $40-something. I was just glancing through the stock report in the newspaper and noticed now that it is $88. So I sold them and I made some money. So really, the stock will appreciate over time. So just imagine, I trade whenever my stocks that I buy can pay me a 30% dividend. I usually sell and buy. But that's just me who I know learn how to trade stock. But for most ordinary people, you buy the stock and you wait on what is called capital appreciation. So persons who would have bought those cement company stocks some years ago at 50 cents per stock, and they had that in their portfolio all these years, never sold it, never did anything to it. Each one of those 50-cent stock is valued at $87 today. And that is how the stock market operates. And so that is how rich people grow wealth. Because you can't save fast enough to grow wealth. Because inflation destroys the savings. But when you're investing in something that is growing faster than the rate of inflation, then it puts you on a sound foundation to develop financial stability and financial strength. So, the next time you see some stock selling, see if you can find the money and buy a few. Because the Enron stock that was closed a few days ago, you only need what was it, $1,000 could have bought you some share. Wigton at $1,000 could have bought you some share. So when you're a shareholder, it means that you're a part owner of that company. So if you buy stocks in Grace Kennedy, it means that you're a part owner in Grace Kennedy. So buying stocks gives you ownership into the company that you're buying into. And if you are prepared to allow those stocks to remain, don't trade like how I trade, but allow those stocks to remain, is that over time, exponentially, it grows beyond the rate of inflation. Because the biggest thing that hurts us today is inflation. The government department, I don't remember its statistics or what it is, tell us that the inflation rate is 4.7%. But we know from going to the supermarket and going to the market that when things raise, it's not 40 cents or 50 cents put down on anything. But the money that you get, you're basically getting the same money what it costs you more to buy. And just to speak to some of those who are a little bit more senior, who might have been retired and have a little savings and all of that, to tell you what it put to your savings. You put money in the bank today, and the bank pays, depending on the amount, between 0.5 to 1.5% interest. 0.5 to 1.5% interest. But inflation is growing at 10, 12, 14, 15%. Now the bank pays 25%. So to every $2.50 interest that you get on $100, inflation take $80, $90 out of it. And so after a while, that money you have in the bank, yes, the number is the same. You know that 50,000, you still have 50,000 right in the book if you have a loan. But it can't buy $50,000 worth of value that you had before. That's what inflation does. Inflation robs you of your savings. Inflation eats out your investment over time. There are many retired persons today who are going to find that put the money safely in the bank and they feel alright, well, put it in the bank and it's alright. But in 10 years or 20 years, they're going to find that the money that they have don't have any value because it wasn't growing faster than the rate of inflation. Whenever you have money, it must be growing faster than the rate of inflation. Otherwise, that money depreciates rapidly, and over time, what it used to buy 5 years ago, it can't buy it today. They need more to buy it. So inflation is the thief that robs and bother most of us. So we have to be sensible. People with money in the bank, believe me, you're better off if you have a little backyard and you can buy 2 goats. Or you buy 1 cow, you feed at it and sell it, then not eat it. Because that money in the bank is getting less and less and less and less in value. Till you get to the stage where one day, maybe you come down with some emergency or so, and you need some money, you find that money can't do anything. Some years ago, I found a receipt from my first daughter who went to Hampton School for one of her school fees. You know what it is? It was $1.75 for the term. $1.75 for the term. So what is the term? What does the term cost today? You know, $1.75. The house, my home. When I signed up and purchased that home, the figure at the bottom of that thing was $9,800 and something for that home. Sometimes that was in the, what was it now? 80s? 80s. Yeah, the 80s. In the 90s, I had occasion to do a valuation on the house. The house was valued over 8 million at that time. I'm sure it's valued much more than that now. So just to show you how investments can over time grow exponentially. So we talk a little bit about stocks. I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask questions at the end. So the next one I'm looking at now is real estate, land. There was a famous man around the place, and it was said that he said, anyway you sell land, I sell you must buy it because God now make more land. And he did just that. Anywhere he saw ancient land selling, he would buy it. I remember when I came back in 1970, somebody offered me 2 lots on the seaside across the bridge. $4,000 each. But $4,000 at that time was like $4 million today. And I missed the opportunity, and I could buy it. He said to me that the bank said to him that if he brings someone and recommend that person, they would lend him the money. But when I go home and I talk to my wife and all that, me more than she free. So we decided to say, we're not taking the chance, because the company I worked for, we had become unionized, and as a result of that, in order to break the back of the union, they were laying off and firing people and all of that, and so I wouldn't take the chance. Because I had too much responsibility to take that chance and maybe the company fire me or lay me off or transfer me back to Kingston. And so we missed it. So real estate, if you have a little saving and you can find a little piece of land that you can afford to buy, over time, the price of that land appreciates exponentially. There is no way you can save at that level, not even if you're doing drugs. So that is another instrument that allows you to grow capital and to grow wealth over time. real estate. The stock market is risky. And so, especially persons mid-age or so with enough responsibility, I would recommend that you go into the stock market just like that. But you can get stocks to buy in what is called a mutual fund. A mutual fund is, if you go to any investment companies, they put a package of stock together. So they may put some, for example, some food companies, Grace, Eve, so on and so forth. They may put a few manufacturing companies also, and they unitize it and we sell your unit. The same thing happens with the unit trust. And so that now is more, they don't grow as fast as a stock, but it still grows faster than inflation. Remember, the back of our minds, we must always remember that inflation is the thing that robs us and brings us to poverty. Because we're not earning the money fast enough, and the money that we have saved not growing fast enough. It's only growing 0.5% or 1.5%. And the inflation growing 10-20% going away, so you can't manage it. So, as we come back to the diversification of stocks, we could look at unit trusts or mutual funds. And don't be afraid to walk into a bank and ask for the investment manager and talk to them. Because many of these instruments can start with very small amount. You don't need a bag of money to start many of these instruments. Because like we spoke about NROC, that was marketed through NCB Trust. $1,000 would have gotten me some shares. And if you leave those shares, it was $3.30 when it came on the market. And a few days ago, it was $4.60 something. So just imagine if you bought 1,000 of that and leave it here for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, how it could multiply exponentially. And so it could form a more secure financial future for you. So we talk about stock and we talk about real estate. There are bonds also, and bonds are government instruments. In the same way people starting a company and will sell shares in the company rather than going to borrow from the bank. Because we know when you borrow from the bank, it's like you walk into a trap. You can't win. You can't win at all. And sometimes they say people give you advice. Some years ago when I was a very young man, I met a man at a function in Montego Bay. He was in his 80s then. And he told me a story. He said he owned almost all of Brownstone at one time, Brownstone in St. Anne. And I used to work in Brownstone. I used to work for a company that transferred me all over the place. And he said he made the mistake of borrowing some money to expand the business a bit. He lost everything with the exception of a little one that he had just started selling cooking gas. And when I met him, that was what was keeping his body and soul together. And he said to me, young man, if you can avoid going to the bank to borrow money, fight it. Fight it. Ask your friends and your relatives and so to invest in your business, and when your business grow, all your share it together. So the mutual funds then, sorry, not mutual funds, we're talking now about bonds. Government sell bonds on the market, and that's less risky because the government gives a guarantee. So for example, when government was building the road, the highway, the NROC, they floated a bond, and then for example, they would say a 10-year bond at 5% or 10%. That is guaranteed. So every year you will collect this interest from the bond, and you would allow it to stay there. When it matures, you would collect it, and you probably would reinvest it in another bond. So when we buy into those instruments, we are compounding the growth of our money. Because the money in the bank don't make any sense. If you use that money and buy and sell a bottle, believe me, better off. Because just imagine your life savings in the bank. The bank is paying 0.5%. 10, 15, 20 years, that money, the value of that money is wiped out. You can't buy anything. And so we have to take this situation seriously. Because inflation is something that is always growing. Inflation never stop growing. And inflation is always going to be robbing us unless we find a way. I have a friend, he's a neighbor like myself, you know, but he was raised by a Chinese man. And he said the Chinese man tell him that he must always be selling something, otherwise you're not live for your family. Because, and when you're selling something, you know, you're growing with inflation. The man on the corner that is selling some sweets and some oranges and 2 melon and 2 papa and so, is that when the inflation moves, the price of his thing go up, and he's moving pace with the inflation. So he's better off than you, who's employed to a company that is getting X dollar or Y dollar, and inflation moving where you're getting the same pay. You see? Inflation moving where you're getting the same pay. It that very often that the man has to look on the roadside and we maybe want to pity him or feel sorry for him. He can't change the check mountain. He can't change the check mountain. And so we have to be careful of that inflation. You're right. But we have a mindset because all of us, or most of us, if not all of us here, we grew up into poverty. I was sharing with somebody recently that my father wasn't around. It was just my mother and myself. We were afraid of borrowing money. And so we never borrowed money. If we need something in the house and so, we draw the belts tight, and we save and save little till we can buy it. So when I came to Black River, got married, got our first child, met my wife, we wanted a fridge and a stove. And so I have been with Scotiabank for 90 years. So I went to Scotia and sent me some money to buy a stove and a fridge. So the loan officer said I should come in. And when I go in, that man grilled me for about an hour. He asked me every question. And then finally when it looked like, I said, well, it looked like I'm going to get through. He drew a piece of paper and he write something at the top of it. I didn't see what he wrote. And he said, Mr. Hall, I want you to give me a list of the people you owe and how much you owe. And he knows some boasting naked, you know. I said to him, boy, I don't owe anybody, you know. He said, no, I can't lend you the bank money. He said, no, I'm in a credit rating. I can't lend you the bank money. And I never got that loan. Can't lend you the bank money because you don't have a credit rating. So especially this is even more important today that we have credit rating, some of the things that we buy, if we can pay for it over time, knowing where the money coming from. So in the instruments now, one of the dangers for younger persons is a credit card. They just flip it out, and just order the Kentucky, and just order the McDonald's or whatever. And when they are online, yes, as it's all online, you know, Black Friday sale in America. Normally, I remember the last time I was in America for Black Friday, my sister-in-law woke me up. It was 4 o'clock in the morning. So I said, Joe, what's the problem? We're going down to Macy's, something, so I want to buy. So I said, well, why do we need to go now? We're going to break in here. She said, no, if you don't go, no, you don't get in here. When we went down, you know, hell of a line from here down in a Black River. And when you go in, you know, people fighting for things and stuff. When you see the advent of credit card and stuff, this last Black Friday, they said that the market for goods online was $80 billion. People using credit cards and so buying things that sometimes you can't even afford it. And sometimes you get the wrong thing when you order it. So be careful, especially your younger people with the credit card. When you're going to spend with your credit card, know where the money coming from month end to clear it off before the interest hits you. Because the credit card interest is nearly 5% per month. 12,560. 60% per annum on a credit card. 60% per annum on a credit card. But many of the young people flipping credit card don't even realize that, and 2 tools when you realize. Yes.
So what about when I use a credit card and pay on time?
Yes.
Pay on time.
By all means. By all means. The bank don't like that, but that's what you need to do. The bank don't love that at all. The bank when you wait, like love when you wait till next month to pay it. Because they'll kill you with the interest. I remember I went to a function in Washington, D.C. some years ago. And a man just like yourself was talking to us about money matters. And he had about 25 young ladies with him. It was in a Hilton hotel, which we got here. And he was telling us that Macy's, Walmart, and those people, they could easily give you the goods that they have, because the credit card money that they collect is much more than the goods that they're selling. And they encouraged people who come into the light to cut off the credit card. And the ladies who were up there when they had scissors, and I mean hundreds of people just go up and cut off their credit card.
Alright, for instance, credit card. You're setting for the credit card like $100. And for instance, each month you pay like $4 a month. Each month you pay $100. But if you want to pay like before, that's what I can pay.
No, they encourage you, if you use $100, they don't say to you, say you're about $100, They say your payment for this month, the minimum is $20.
Yeah.
See, when the interest on 80.
Sometimes if you set it like this, just open the card. Agreement with it is for $100 per month.
Yeah.
That's in the expect $100 per month. That's the agreement.
The agreement that you have. No, but when the statement comes up, the statement usually gives you a minimum payment. And then many people pay the minimum and believe that everything is alright. It's alright, but you're going to pay for the rest.
If you don't like when you go over to pay more than the amount,
I know,
you don't like when you pay
but you wouldn't like that. If you was running a credit card business, you would like that. Like how you will make money.
And that gets me already, because like, if I want like $500,
Yeah, $100 at all. They say they never need it. Alright, so, yes. Yeah, man.
First of all, when you're
Me? You mean when I pay about that what by interest? Oh, when you want in the freedom and stuff? No. When I came here, for those who are old enough, I was a branch manager for a butter shoe company. So I used to be transferred all over there. Yeah, so you asked that if I was working. No, I wasn't working for the bank. Yeah.
You're not excited about it.
Yeah.
And you're not excited about going to the bank to that.
Yes.
You're not excited about it. Because many years ago, we discovered that the bank is like the supermarket.
The worst.
The worst?
Yes. God needs to get something at the supermarket.
The bank is here to make some money. We discovered that nobody will take it.
No, wait, listen. The place where the bank has us at the moment, you pay to lodge the money. And you pay to withdraw the money. And if you say, alright, I'm going to leave it in the long term, then charge you so the account's not very active, so they charge you money every month or so. There's a man, he has a case in Kingston right now. He lived in America for a number of years. When he was migrating, he sold his house and his car and he put it into an account. Went to America, things didn't work out for him, got married and it didn't work out, and eventually, this is now like 20 years later, he said, well, I have some savings, so I'm going home. When he start again and this and not starting from scratch. When he went home, the bank said the account was inactive, so no money not left in the account. Every month they take out something because account to them is inactive. Remember that they lend that money and they charge interest on that money. It's not like they have it in our box put down somewhere. That money is moving over and over. But they find a way to rob us.
And no man will do that all. And you won't have to go to the bank for money.
Yeah.
And he said, many years ago, he got $40,000 in a year. So he said, wait back, it's not long time to do it. So $50,000. Every debt card is inactive.
Inactive account.
And every month.
Then find a way to take it out.
The man never knew that. And he said, you know, I went back to one chance.
Then take it out.
Well, we didn't
Oh, you never see him after that. But I would bet you any money that perhaps when you got the money is there. Yeah. So that's one of the racket they use to take out our little savings. So we had a mad guy one place. You remember Lassell? Lassell go down to Scotiabank and drive and draw $5 and go back 10 minutes later, go lodge it back. And so, but that's what kind of madness this. He said, just making sure so not money back.
Many years ago, the I discovered that, no, I heard that the bank said, and it was NCB and the World Cup, that if your account is at over $50,000, you won't get that.
Yeah.
It's still happening.
Yes. That's why the interest rates range between 0.5%, 0.5%, and 1.5%. Now the person who gets 1.5 is the man who can lodge maybe 1, 10 or 20 million. We who can lodge a few thousand or a few hundred thousand, it's 0.5% to get money. So just imagine if you leave that here over time with inflation, after a while that money can't buy anything. You know, the number remains the same, but the value gone out of the money. And yes, sir.
I was asking about the rate of inflation now.
The official rate is 4.7%, but it is based on a basket of grocery that I'm not sure if it's a statistical institute or which body it is, but they put together a basket of grocery, but I'm sure it's not that same basket of grocery most of you. No, so you experience a much higher inflation rate than that. Because just going into the markets, tomato can get to $700 a pound, $300-400 a pound. Sweet pepper, my wife and myself are coming from Mandela and we stopped in the market in Santa Cruz. And the man was showing us that it was a good sized sweet pepper. He said $1,000 for it. $1,000 for it. Yeah. You can't get it, so it's a seller's market. So, the important things I want you to get out of this when you leave here is to remember the danger of inflation. There are many retired persons today who retire and get a little lump sum and put it in a bank account to sit down and believe that everything is alright. Not realizing that if they live 10, 15, 20 years or so, the inflation feed that out to nothing. Eat it out to nothing. So please remember about inflation and think about finding another stream of income. No matter how simple it is. It might be buying and selling bottle. If you have the land space, yes. Pardon? Saving what?
US dollar.
Well, that's where people who have money save their money. US dollar. Because the US dollar rate is the inflation is not as bad as our currency. And in addition to that, it is always appreciated. I knew in 1968, when we moved from pound, shilling and pence and moved to US dollar, you know how much a US dollar was valued in Jamaica? 35 cents. 35 cents. I worked in Montego Bay 68, 69, and when people on the streets, because those were the days they didn't have the all-inclusive hotels where they carry them in, lock them up inside and drive them out back to the airport. Tourists used to come out on the street and they'll try orange, they'll try guinea, they'll try everything and so. And when higglers on the road sell things, they come to the store and we change it for them. Because they don't want the US dollar. Inflation again. Inflation again. So the US dollar remains steady. So it's a good thing to save in US dollar if you can save in US dollar. Because in addition to the fact that it remains steady, it is always appreciating. Because just imagine it moved from 35 cents to a Jamaican dollar to $157 to buy $1 US today. And there's no telling where it will be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time. So that's a good instrument also that we can save in. Any other questions?
Listen, pension fund, because see looking at pension funds, they kind of give a different interest on that. Or
Who will be the bank?
the bank. I
Um,
see interest.
When you say pension funds, what do you mean?
Alright, so for example, younger persons now that looking to put money away
For their pension?
pension,
Yeah.
it's advisable.
When you will buy an instrument.
Yeah.
Because if, as a younger person, you recognize the need that's going to come down the road. Because while you're young, everything is alright, you know. But as you start to grow older, you get the high blood pressure and the diabetes and the whatever. And so, those persons who are younger, who are working now, it's suited to budget tight and to ensure that you're saving money. And one of the ways now to save funds to create good pension is not in the bank, but through the insurance company. Because the insurance company sells what is known as equity-linked insurance. So you buy some life insurance, but a part of your monthly income payment goes towards saving. And that usually is also growing faster than the rate of inflation. So, although you may work with a company that have a pension for you, but it is advisable as a younger person that you also set up a pension fund for yourself. And it is recommended that a young person shouldn't put less than 10% of your income per month into that pension fund. And it must be a long-term fund. Because my wife is in the life insurance industry, and sometimes she sells persons as a pension fund, and as soon as it grows 120 or 30,000, they take it off. But you see, it can't grow like that. You're stifling it. Because what they do with the pension funds, you have a fund manager, and the fund manager looks at stocks, shares, real estate, and all the different instruments and invests into them so that it is able to pay a higher rate than inflation. And over time, so for example, if at the beginning of January, you had $1,000 in your pension fund, what they do, they reinvest that $1,000 buying more shares and stocks and whatever they invest in. At the end of March, they look at it, it may value 150. But if every time it grows something, the person who have that fund keep on drawing off of it like it's a saving. It's not a savings account. You need to have a savings account, one that you're going to spend from and buy from and so. But a dedicated pension fund must be one that you're going to be leaving for 10, 20, 30 years. And that time you'll experience the potential growth that it has. And it's going to be better than inflation, going to be much better than inflation. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Are there any disadvantage to buying stocks and bonds?
Yes. There's a risk as stocks and bonds. I am a trader, and sometimes I get linked too. Because one of the biggest things, when COVID started, I was doing very well in the stock market. I was planning to change the car the following year and all of that. Noticed that the stock prices started going down. Didn't realize that people were selling off for stocks. And so I am stuck now with some stocks that is not going anywhere, but I am encouraging my youngest daughter. I'm teaching her how to invest in stocks and so. And so I've transferred some of those stocks into her name. For example, there's a certain bank that sold some stock at $1 each. And the minute they sold it at $1, it eventually did. It went down to 50 cents. Yesterday it was 45 cents. No one can sell that. If I sell that, I'm going to lose. And I have maybe 300,000 or 500,000 at that stock. So I put that down as a long-term stock, and I put it in my daughter's name. So she will benefit at some point, because one of the things with the stock market, it ebbs and it flows. It comes down and it goes back up. It comes down and it goes back up. And if it's in there long enough, when it comes down over time, it gradually climbs its way back up. So that is a risk with the stock market. So if you're an older person, middle-aged person also, I would advise that you invest everything in stock. Like Enrock was selling the other day, you can spare $1,000 and so. And you buy it and stay when that stay there, you know where trouble. In 10 years, 15 years, I'm sure you will have a good return on your money. So there's a certain amount of risk. The bonds are less riskier because it's guaranteed by government. And unit trust still a little bit less risky because it's a group of stocks and investments that the stock manager put together and invest in over time and give you a unit price. So you might have bought at, for example, $3 and the stocks are working well and over time they will value at $5. Because what you find if you put 10 stocks together in a portfolio, you will find some that are growing, but you will find some that are going to be sluggish and be growing at a particular time. So that is why the stock market is a long-term thing. Should be a long-term. But it is something I enjoy doing, so I trade stock, buy and sell stocks. And the good thing about it, I do it right on the phone. Instead of watching TV and I can buy stock and I can sell stock right on the phone. About it, yes, sir.
Try to remember what year it's going in the late 70s or 80s that $40,000.
Why are you a rich man? 70s, $40,000 like gold, 40 million.
Maybe just late 70s or
Or early 80s.
I want to put it in the trust. So when you do it was workers from
Yeah, I remember.
and somebody will recognize it's not the best time to put it in the car. So you know, you are looking at the no. So I went to Santa Cruz, in Sydney, and I said, I need clothes. And after last one, I got money. And after that money, I took it to buy.
Lovely. About how much of that value today? Real estate, you can't lose from real estate.
And when I bought it, it was $700, it's over $700. And now I'm using
Real estate. Real estate. So real estate is a good way to build wealth, and especially in Jamaica, because in Jamaica, land prices are always going up. I know that America, it can be dangerous. I remember going to Queens, my sister-in-law, and the house she was living in was owned by a policeman from St. Lucia, and he was paying a mortgage and 800,000. But at the time, the house and land never valued more than 250,000 because the value had gone down. But fortunately, we don't have that problem in Jamaica. The land prices are always going up. So an investment in a little piece of land is a super investment to make. If you have you understand, sure, I'm going to pass that time.
So, what should be invest?
If you want to live and live reasonably, don't have to be walking around with a pan to beg every time something happens, then it makes sense to invest. So your investment helps to create security for you, financial security. So could say the same thing about work. Why do you work? You know, if you don't go to work, then you need to go to bed. Yeah. But you have to invest. Once you're alive, you have to invest. And if you don't invest, believe me, when you're in poverty, you have to invest. You must invest. You must find something to invest in. Animal is a good investment, you know. If you can invest in some animal in a place where they're not stealing them, that's a good investment. Because you buy a cow, and if you get a good mother cow, you give you a calf. No bank can pay that kind of interest. Or you buy a goat, and the goat, you get a goat with 2 drop or 3 drop. No bank can pay that kind of investment. But you have to do something. Have to do something. You can't live just from salary or just live from day to day. Otherwise, when old age catch you, you're going to find that you can't sustain yourself. So investment is key.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
With your experience with the Jamaica stock market,
Yeah.
which stocks would you recommend?
There is what I call blue chip stocks. For example, like Grace Kennedy always make money.
Jamaica Brothers.
Which one?
Jamaica Brothers.
Yes. Which other one more?
Okay, Trans Jamaica.
Trans Jamaica Highway, Wigton, Enrock, Fontana, the bus company. I made some good money out of the bus company. I bought at $6 and sell back at about $12.
Scotiabank.
Scotiabank. So you have what you call blue stock or blue chip stocks that always make money over time. There will be times when they don't, you know. Because, for example, I am presently losing on my NCB stock because I bought at $189 per unit and it down to about $40-something now. But we know the problem with NCB that the owner, Leachin, had to come back and put up the two managers that he had because obviously was helping themselves. Because pensioners and so who put their money in NCB could always look forward to dividends at the end of every year for about 3-4 years and never pay the dividends. So that happens sometimes also. But one day, that's another stock that I'm giving to my daughter. One day, that stock is going to have good value again also. Yes, sir.
I wanted to ask, because I'm going to be
Pardon?
consulting.
No, I'm just sharing experiences here.
Very important.
Like Reverend King and myself are good friends over the years. So up to recently with the NBAC stock in Parliament, I will talk about it and all of that. You know. That's on a friend basis.
Okay.
Because, but the best thing is that if Sajik my investment manager and Sajik Mr. Blake, you can always make an appointment and go in and talk with him. You know, so you can give you the best advice that's available at the time. Because he's licensed to do that.
Okay, thank you so much, because sometimes it's only when the stock closes, we hear some of us about it. But as you say, we can go in and talk.
Yes.
So
you have a little spare money or you want to put a little spare money aside. Talk to the investment manager at one of the banks.
Very important. I really appreciate the presentation, Reverend Paul. It's like a gospel being preached, because the people of God need
to
do something more here. Because if we preach it that our God provide and blesses us, then we must be wise and do well. I remember speaking when I remember Joseph. How Joseph was a good steward in Potiphar's house and made him wept. You know, I've always been concerned about pension, and because, you know, having sat in some of these, by the way, very, very good presentation. I was texting on the WhatsApp group to say that I wish that everyone was here.
Want to talk to pension, you can talk to this person.
Yes, thank you very much, sir. Everybody was here to hear. This is one of the greater presentations I've heard for a long time. But the concern with it is with the pension is that there are persons who are doing pension payments now through their company of employment. But when you check it out, because you have to do the checking yourself, when you check it out after age 60 or 65, when you are to pull down on that pension, and you think that you have $10 million that will take you home, you're joking. Because as Reverend Hall said about inflation and the cost, and then a lot of things that sometimes I get older and there are ailments and sickness that can wipe out most of that in a short time. And being pastoral and ministers who would have done pension and they retire, and one sickness, within a year, all of that money is gone. You know? So I believe that this is very important to be able to continue with the quality of life that you are having after you retire. You know? So we need to think about it and think about it very serious. that we invest in some other pension plan outside of the one
Yes.
that we give you at work and so on. But as I said, the presentation, Reverend Hall, very good, and I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
I hope that the libraries can bring it back some other time.
All right.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right, and thank you also. If there are no further questions, I'll go beyond the time. Thank you also.